Welcome back, folks. Today, everything you need to know about how to wire in coil-on plugs into a 2jzgte, GTE, 1jz with the stock ECU and an aftermarket standalone ECU coming right up. So first of all, to get started, let's have a look at some coils. So the typical type of coil is this. It's a stick type coil. This is genuine parts. This is what you want. You don't want eBay stuff. It's most probably going to break. That seems to be the general consensus, and I've had eBay coils go down on me as well. That didn't come out right. They were made by Denso, now I believe they're made by Bosch. Any of these will work just fine. These are all smart coils. The Yaris coil is no superhuman coil. The Yaris coil doesn't have some sort of kryptonite against other coils. It is just the coil that fits the best. Why? Because it has a connector plug that goes completely horizontal, whereas most of the other Toyota smart coils have it on a slight vertical. That's the only difference, and then you can't quite get the cover over the top. But with a 2jzgte, you can. These are Camry coils that I've used. I'll give you all the numbers for them every year. It basically changes the number every couple of years. There's hundreds and hundreds of Toyota coils, but all of them pretty much do the exact same thing. And all the pins, as far as I've seen so far, are all in the same place, so you should be pretty fine with wiring them how I show you, although you might want to check them for confirmation. Everything on this video though is at your own risk. I'm just showing you a guide. I'm not God. I'm no complete Toyota mechanic, but I'm definitely going to show you a complete way to do it, and the car will start hopefully when I plug this thing in, and you'll be able to see that it's working with a stock TT ECU, and it will also work with an aftermarket standalone ECU. So there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different budgets to run your own coil-on plug system on your car. Basically, the way I do it is I am tight, so I buy these little things. You can get these off Golby's Parts, they're on eBay, you can get ones with pigtails already coming out of them, etc. But the way I do it is I just buy them like this, and then buy all the little pins as well that come with it. And you put those together, and then you can run your length of wire out and down to your ECU or to the igniter or wherever you want to go with it. But basically you can run your custom length of wire with that. So you end up with something like this. I made this one a long time ago, and I just never fitted it to a 2jzgte NA turbo build that I was doing. So these are already made up for it. It's simply just got the hole saw and drilled holes in a piece of aluminium, spaced them out, and they're ready to drop in. But all these little plugs here, you can see that I wired them into just one loom, and you can run that straight through the firewall and straight down to your ECU. Or you can run it to where your old igniter was sitting in a GTE setup. Now, I have run 4 wires into every single connector here, not 3. With a standalone ECU, you only need 3 wires. With the stock ECU, you need 4 wires because you need the IGF signal. You need confirmation coils are being fired. So basically with the IGF wire, you run all of those into one, and you just bridge the whole lot of them and run it straight to the IGF signal. So straight out the back of this loom, I have the earths. Now I've broken the earths down into 2, so 3 coils lead into one earth and 3 coils into another, just to spread it out a little bit, and I would bolt those straight to the back of the head. Done, out of the way. Then you've got the power. All the powers can go straight into one single power input, and you can run that straight to the original source that came out of the original igniter. Of course, if you're on a naturally aspirated GE, just find a switched power, one of the main ones from underneath the bonnet somewhere, from in the engine bay, and straight into that, and Bob's your uncle. You've got power going to all your coils. That's the easy bit done. Then you've got your signal wires, so let's go down to the end of the loom, and here you simply just number the coils. So on your stock ECU or on an aftermarket ECU, you just find the pinouts. Now if you've got an aftermarket ECU, you basically want to get one with 6 ignition outputs so that you can run it in sequential mode, of course. If you get one that's only capable of 4, then you're going to have to batch fire your ignition coils. And that's going to mean that they're going to be firing twice as much. So you really want to be easier on the coils and get a longer dwell time if you can get a standalone with 6 ignition outputs. The stock GTE ECU has 6 ignition outputs because, of course, the GTE engines run sequential ignition, but these coils are better than the stock coil system that's on the GTEs. That's why we're swapping these over. And if you're going to be running in the future, you know, over 500 horsepower and quite a bit of boost, then you're going to want to have something like this, a better form of spark. So the coil on plugs is by far the cheapest way to do it, especially when you're buying them straight from the junkyard. So all I've done is number these 1 to 6, and basically it runs like this. On the stock ECU, number 1 coil on the first cylinder gets run into the number 1 outlet of the stock ECU. Number 2, going from the front of the car to the firewall, coil goes straight into the number 2 coil trigger input on the ECU. Number 3 to number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 6. Then I have also run down to here the IGF wire. So the IGF wire, that will be run into the IGF, which is right beside all of your ignition outputs on the stock ECU. Of course, with the standalone ECU, you do not need that extra wire, that IGF wire. This is a coil on plug wiring kit made by Siltech and sold by Golby's Parts. It acts as an igniter delete kit and has a cheap $50 option for a standalone ECUs and a $105 option for the stock GTE ECU. You still have to wire the new coils into the back of the original igniter connector though, unless you purchase the $120 R35 coil patch harness. The problem with the patch harness is that it uses the horrible stock 2-pin coil connectors and leaves them stuck somewhere in the spark plug well, and you may be limited to the expensive R35 coils. Still, it's a cool option to have available. So what we're going to do under here is we're going to take off all of this and we're going to take out all the original coils, and then we're going to mount in the new stick coils, and we'll work out the best way to mount them, and then we're going to wire them straight down the back here and then out to the igniter, which is over here. And you can simply wire it into the same wires that go in and out of the igniter. So let's get to work. Now already just taking this connector off the front coil of these little connectors are another reason to go stick coils, smart coils, instead of these things that the GTE came with, is these little connectors are rubbish, they break. Right now I'm simply unclipping the harness. So these 2 clips came up here, and we're going to take these wires out from the center that used to go down to the coil plugs, out and down, and we're going to wrap them up down there. Remember, if you're still running the sequential twin turbos, then you're going to need these ones over here. Okay, I'm going to make up the brackets to put these genuine ones into the 2jzgte, into my SUPRA. So I'm going to do them in sets of 2s. So how I've drawn this up, I'll give you a very quick explanation. Basically, these are the stock coils that came out of the GTE. I have simply taken the 2 coils out and left this framework here. Then I have put the framework down onto a piece of 3mm thick aluminium and simply traced these 2 holes, so dotted these 2 holes exactly where they'll go straight into the head. And then there is 2 little rounded bits here where the old coils sat in. So those will give me a perfect reference for where the coils will match up straight down onto the spark plug. here's the brackets I've made up. They're not the prettiest thing in the world by any means, and they're certainly not like some of the CNC examples that you see for sale by the big guns, but those are a lot of money. Yes, it is the best product to get those CNC ones, but if you want to do it on the real cheap like me, just out of 3mm aluminium pant sheet, then I made these for free basically. The bolts for all of it cost $10, and that was for 2 sets for my other car as well. So that's how much it's cost me to make these. It's just taken me time though, and effort, rather than just purchasing something. You can go either way, but you'll probably find out that if you make something and put it on your car, you'll appreciate it a lot more than if you've purchased it and thrown it on. These are not seen either. They sit underneath the cover. These are going to do the same job at the end of the day. So this is the way I went. Nothing wrong with the expensive one, that's for sure. I do not want to discriminate against that one, but this is how it's done on the real cheap. So this is what my brackets look like without the coils installed on top. They're really firm. The poles or the posts just sit underneath, and it bolts in very similar to how the standard ones do. Now just quickly, I'm going to show you 2 other engines that I've got in my garage here. This is of course my 1jzgte twin turbo that I had in the SUPRA, which is soon to be another project. Please subscribe if you want to see this thing go into a SUPRA, by the way. But I put coil-on plugs on this years and years ago. These were extremely easy. You just made up these little wee braces and bolt them straight into the little bolt holes right there. Extremely easy. The 2jzgte, this is the original engine out of my SUPRA. I will do a whole new video for you NA Turbo guys to show you how to fit them. This, at the moment, I have the VWTI coils put in here. That's how I was running it. But some people really rate these things. I think they look messy and everything, and they're just not really my cup of tea. But I'll pop the coil-on plugs into here and show you how to mount them in there as well. Just a bit more of a close-up on how I did them on the 1jzgte. I'll do a whole build thread on this thing anyway, but see, I put 1 bar there and it just grips underneath the edges of the coils themselves. So now we get to do the wiring. Now I have my 2 earths here. Remember I showed you that I run 3 coils into one, 3 coils into the other, and I've got 2 of the earths plugs right here. They simply get bolted to the head, or the intake manifold will be fine. So I'm going to bolt my 2 earths straight to the back of the intake plenum. There's a bolt hole right there. I'll do that. Then here is my power wire. So I simply run a power wire from here around to the existing power wire, which is in the 4-pin plug here on the old igniter plug. There it is, one of those. So I'll wire that in there now, and we'll go over complete detail of the wiring. So the way that we can wire this up, if we look at the back at this plug here, the pinouts that come from the ECU into the igniter are here. So this is ignition input 1 here, then it goes 2 right beside it on the top row, then it goes 3, then it drops down and goes to 4 ignition input, then 5 back to the right, and then 6 underneath number 1. So those are the ones that we need to use. Folks, I think this is pretty damn obvious by now. I've gone over it a million times, but this is all I've done. So I've simply just got the old igniter plug and I've cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. They're all cut, and I've basically just put them into this connector. I don't have a proper connector at the moment. I'll get another one. This one is hillbilly. And then I have simply taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 signal wires straight from the igniters, put it into the other side, and then I've got my 12 volt power from the coils straight into here, into the 12 volt from the 2-pin, and then the IGF wire straight underneath of it from the IGF in the 4-pin plug. Let's go see if the car will run. I'm pretty confident that it's going to start. I'm not confident if the tacho is going to work. Let's have a look. Okay, neutral. 1, 2, 3. Tacho working. Let's have a look and see if it's running on all cylinders. That sounds really, really smooth to me. That's running on all 6. Absolutely perfect. Okay, I think we'll take it for a drive. It's really wet here at the moment, so I'm not going to be able to go balls out, if you know what I mean. That's all we need to do. Runs absolutely perfect. Well, this is a success, guys. I'm pretty stoked with this. I hope this helps you all. The main reason that I think that this tacho has worked and everything has started and run fine is because they are genuine Toyota coils. I think if you're buying copies off eBay, there's a possibility that your tacho might not work and it might not even run. That's all for this one, folks. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Clayton Carlisle. This is SUPRA VWORLD. See you in the next one. Bye now.